everybody, to the Tuesday, January 29th, 2019 meeting of the City of Ann Arbor Park Advisory Committee. It's 11 after 4. Apologize for the late start. We just made quorum. Colin, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Gallardi?
Here.
Commissioner Santa Croce?
Here.
Commissioner Morrison?
Here.
Commissioner Borgsdorf? Commissioner Ramaswamy? Commissioner London? Commissioner Apple?
Here.
Commissioner Kraut? And Commissioner Skyless.
Here.
And we have Councilmember Hayner.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, everybody. Item C, you have before you the agenda that's been handed out and also posted earlier this week. Changes or additions, I have one for timing purposes for people who are here to support things. I would like to move G6 to after G1. So I'd like to do that. If that's all right with everybody. Does anyone else have any other changes? Or hearing none, we move on. Item D, approval of the minutes of the 12/18/18 meeting. They're attached into your packet. Changes, additions, comments, and if not, a motion.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Awesome, that passes. Item F, item E, public commentary. Is there any member of the public who'd like to speak for 3 minutes? Welcome back, how are you?
Hi, thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Rita Mitchell. I live at 621 5th Street, and I wanted to just talk about 2 items that are on your agenda, both of which I like. I'm really pleased to see that you're working on the center of the city issue. We've gone through lots of discussion of the whole thing, but it's really nice to see you moving forward and considering what other communities are doing with their use of their central space. I think it's a great idea. The second thing that's of interest to me, and I think obviously to you, is the proposal to ban purchase of plastics or to stop using purchase of plastics in the park system. I think that is a fabulous idea. And I really just want to encourage you to go even further. You know, it's a small thing, and I think a lot of people have become aware of the plastics problem that we have as a whole world. But I think that if you know, it's a good place to start. I'd like you to consider going further with other items that you would purchase and encourage the city to do so. I believe that Missy Stoltz is doing that with the sustainability program. And you can also, this can be an opportunity for education of the public to bring their own reusable materials to the parks and to help remove plastics when they see them. So there might be some way for education to be included, and I hope that comes about as well. Thanks. I'm glad you're considering these.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, we're going to move on to item F, special presentations, and we have none. Welcome, Councilmember Grand. Item G, new business. G1 is a discussion regarding the center of the city and establishing a fee for use. With us in the audience, if members would like, are Susan Follett, the chair of the DDA, Jessica Black, the rec supervisor. You want to pick up where we...
Yeah, just I suppose to remind everybody from kind of where we were last month, we started a discussion on the center of the city. And there was a resolution referred to PAC from council that asked PAC to establish a fee for the space for the library lot park. And at the last meeting, there were questions about the DDA's role with the space currently, and also questions about how we rent kind of park space just overall. So we do have both Susan and Jessica here. They can speak to those things much more clearly and eloquently than I can. So I think asking questions of them would certainly be helpful.
How about a general question?
I have a starter question. for, I think, Susan, could you explain to us what the relationship is of the DDA to that area of the city?
Thank you. Well, the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority has managed the Ann Arbor public parking system since 1992. Our relationship with the city is we take on all the costs, and then with that, the city receives some portion of the parking revenues. Since the DDA took over the parking system, we've been constructing the garages, and we have a very interesting relationship in that we take on all the costs, we pursue the project, and then as soon as the certificate of occupancy has been received, it switches over and now we lease it back from the city. We have a parking agreement with the city through 2033. This is one of those facilities, so it's under contract to the DDA. The role of the DDA is to operate it. We keep it in good repair. It's a public asset that's under our responsibility. So this facility would be like a lot of what would be like all the other facilities, all the other parking garages, all the other parking lots.
Can I ask a follow-up? So this feels a little different than other parking garages because it's underground. So the top level, the surface level, is that something also that the DDA has up to this point managed and rented and leased? That's all encompassed within this agreement here?
Absolutely. The site plan direction we received from council was to design an underground garage that could bear the weight of something up on top. It was spoken of in fairly general terms, but it included a plaza area, and we were then to top the rest of it with a temporary surface lot, which we did. So the lid of the garage is that surface lot, the alley, and the library lane. I counted up, we have 35 parking spaces in the lot, and along Library Lane there are 13, although effectively we really only show 6 as available for meter bag use. The rest are zip cars and that kind of thing. The parking lot's been operated by the DDA, just as the garage has, since it opened in 2012. No, wait, no, God, I got my numbers wrong. Yeah, we opened in 2012, July of 2012. The lot is available to the public as any other parking lot would be.
To park?
The top of the garage is a parking lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So are there analogous situations where the DDA makes available to the public, I guess directly or through the city, property that the DDA, this is your leasehold, to put it in technical, right? This is the DDA's lease is includes the top of this garage. We're talking about renting it, so that makes me to wonder about our authority to do that. But I'm wondering whether there's anything analogous that.
Absolutely. If you look around the course of a year, we made available Fourth and Catherine for the Outfest. We just made available the Klein lot for the Shamrocks and Shenanigan race. The Polio lot is used regularly for everything from art fair to Mott Hospital and so forth. All of the facilities have at some point had somebody who might need to use it. We work hand in glove with Jessica, Deb Williams, and Derek Delacourt's shop. So when somebody comes to the city for a special event, the parking lots are right there along with the parks, right there along with street closures for potentially special events. Follow the same process. They submit an application, they show proof of insurance, you know, all the other things that you do when you're renting a park or renting a street. You rent the lot basically the same way. In our case, we have 2 things that make it a little different. In our case, the lot rental amount is the meter bag cost for that space, if that makes sense. It costs you $25 a day to rent a parking space if you were a moving van or that kind of thing. So we show the values, $25 a day. So the lot on top of Library Lane is $875 per day because it's measured by the meter bags. The second part of it is the DDA has a policy of waiving meter bag fees for nonprofits who bring something to downtown that's benefiting downtown. So in the example of the Library Lane garage, we have been making it available for the Community Commons Group, the Civic Commons Group, for the last several years where they've staged Earth Day events or Arbor Day events, and we've waived the fee. So it's been used for special events. Whatever that fee amount would have been, it's been waived and made available for a public purpose. So it is a piece of city real estate along with the parks or along with the city streets that are made available for events.
So I'm going to ask one more. So on these analogous situations, it's the DDA that sets the rate and determines the waiver?
Yeah, again, according to our agreement, we are responsible for it, but in most instances, the fee is waived because so often it's an event that's bringing real value to downtown. But yes, it falls to the DDA to make the approval, but we're doing everything we do hand in glove with the city. And my analogy is the farmer's market lot. We have responsibility for half the week. Half the week it is the responsibility of the Parks Department, and the farmer's market board. And it should appear seamless to the community. They shouldn't wonder, is it a DDA day or a farmer's market day? It should look seamless. If somebody has a wedding or a special event, they would come to the city, apply to use it, show proof of insurance, and we, as staff, work together on that lot to make it available for special events.
Is Live on Washington like the neutral zone offense? That's considered one of the nonprofit type events where you waive the meter fee?
Yeah, and in particular, when the city council agrees to close a street, we follow right behind it, and those are automatically waived.
Okay.
One more thing about the Library Lane lot that I think is worth noting is I don't know that we realize what a jewel we have in the library, and it's nice to see it named Library Lane. The largest anchor in downtown, probably twice, if not 3 times the size of the audiences coming to the Michigan Theater are coming to the library. It serves a diverse community that we're all very proud to live in, and it serves it with things like the Library for the Blind. It's got play activities for young kids. It regularly has school buses showing up, and I think it's the second graders who are slated to make a stop at the library to learn about the library. Much of what we do with Library Lane focuses on the library because they're so important. But as importantly, Library Lane was designed because so much of the traffic to the library had people stopping on Fifth Avenue, swinging open a car door, and little kids are getting out in a lane of traffic. So the lane was designed so that we could have kid drop off and pick up, disabled individuals pick up, drop off away from traffic. And so we try as much as we can to safeguard the lane. Even as the parking lot might have special event use, we really encourage the lane to remain open because so many people coming to the library need that safe access. We check with the library, in fact, before we give our approvals. In fact, we do that for all the lots. Before we sign off on it, we check in to make sure there isn't something that we're not aware of. If the library might have something important going on inside, it might not appear with the city special events listings. So we check in to make sure, for instance, there's not like a big school group coming before we might release the lot for some other purpose. And we do that with the other lots as well. We check in with the 4 area associations just to be sure. If we're going to give away a parking lot, we want them to be aware, but also we don't want to be undercutting anything that they may be doing in that neighborhood. I guess, again, back to the library, it is such an important anchor in all of this. And as we go forward and as we aren't encouraging events, we should be thinking about especially those events that we can encourage that are in support of the library's role as far as drawing a very, as I said, diverse community.
I'm trying to understand the contours here. So, but it would be the DDA's, as I understand it, it would be in the DDA's discretion whether to just exclude the lane from any rental and just rent the surface of the lot, right?
We could. Yeah, and I guess one thing to emphasize, we absolutely understood the vote of the community in November, and we absolutely understood the role this resolution by council set forward. So in understanding that, we're going to do our very best to try to balance all of the demands, but it would fall to the DDA to, again, try to encourage the lot being used and leaving the lane aside if possible.
That would be my understanding also at the moment. I'm just having a look in the packet. You have the resolution which council passed and referred to PAC. And it's asking really to calculate a fee It does not provide the details of how and who would actually manage the space at this moment. And I'll say that we're still seeking clarification from the attorney's office on exactly how that would work. But in terms of what's being specifically asked by council right now, it's a fee. And whether it's a fee that Parks is able to charge or not right now is hypothetical. Yeah.
I mean, they're asking, as I read the charge from council, council members could correct me if I'm wrong, we're being asked to set a price to rent a piece of property that we don't have, that the city doesn't have authority to rent. I mean, I agree with you 100%. We have our marching orders. We have to make this lot available, but just as a legal matter, I don't understand how we heard what the rates are. That's easy to say. But I don't see how we set a rate to lease a piece of property that we don't have the power, authority to lease.
And that's, I mean, in terms of a resolution back to council, you could certainly consider putting something together that outlines how the lease of the space could work as it is now, and consider establishing a fee for when and if it is rented by Parks. We can give examples of how we rent similar space.
Bob, save us.
No. So I just want to get something straight. Right now, if somebody comes up to you and says, we'd like to rent this for a rally of some sort, and they fit into whatever has fit in the past, you do it,
Absolutely.
okay?
I have a follow-up question.
I wasn't here last month, so I'm going to apologize to everyone,
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
because I'm trying to figure out what,
Why we're involved.
yeah, why we're involved if they're already doing it.
Yeah, well, that's a good question.
Wait,
and, yeah.
let's go down.
Sorry,
the-
I just
Yeah.
have a quick question. I don't even know if it bears mentioning, but in a hypothetical situation, if a for-profit company came to you and wanted to rent the lot in question, the $875 would go to you for profit?
I wouldn't say profit, since the parking system is not exactly a profitable venture, especially that garage, but the dollars would go back
Profit
to the operations.
In quotations, I guess.
It would go back to the operations.
Okay.
As if someone had bagged those 35 meters.
Exactly. And we have, your point's a really good one. We have for-profit events that are happening here in downtown, and one of the questions that was under debate and set aside because it needed to have more discussion is for-profit versus nonprofit. I mean, many of the races are for-profit. They come
Yeah.
here to make money, and as staff, we're not yet in a position where we could tease out the difference between the two. But that's a separate discussion, how one would work with those events that are for-profit.
I was just wondering, because I would imagine that the opening of this lot might attract for-profit companies who really want to make a big splash over something. I mean, the more land you open up downtown, the more people you attract to rent it. So I would imagine some of those might be for-profit.
Yeah, and like the city, really want to encourage more of the good stuff.
Yeah.
And who knows what those events might be and what they might bring to us, and whether it's here or Fourth and Catherine, Polio Lot, wherever we have property, it's really great to see people that are creative bringing those ideas and bringing those events downtown.
One of the things which would be really helpful is if we could hear from the council members, maybe, what exactly council is looking for from PAC
Well,
as
awesome.
clearly as possible.
Next in the queue, Councilman?
Well, thank you. It came to Park, it was referred to Park from council because the resolution refers to Chapter 39 as the park rules guidelines for how the other parks are rented. And it was colloquially referred to as the library park, library lot, the top, or whatever, and all these different names for it. And so I had basically had constituents say, hey, how can we rent this? And I think it's important that there is a distinction between a commercial rental and what the DDA has been doing for these nonprofit groups. And so we just wanted to kind of get it into the system and it got referred to PAC first. And then, Administrator Lazarus kind of talked it around. I spoke with some people. There's people on both ends of the spectrum. I mean, it is a city asset, as you point out. When I bag meters for all the time, it's a value to me to bag a meter all the time. For a dumpster or something in front of a property, it's great. And so, you know, the city does have to earn that back. I mean, we even have policy decisions, or policy moving forward that was floated at our policy agenda committee that we're talking about, valuing the right-of-way. And we do. So that's how it came through PAC, I think, because of the Chapter 39. And again, maybe this isn't the right place for it. Maybe the administrator works with the DDA to just make it available as any other would. But I think it is important, and I'll defer to Councilmember Grand to speak to PAC more, but, you know, there is a difference between profit and nonprofit use of that, and it is an asset.
Right.
I've had people on the far end of the spectrum say it's a commons in the most basic sense of the word, and get all the cars off there and paint it green, but, you know, we're not going that way either, because it's a valuable asset. So that process will start soon enough, I believe.
If it's,
Councilman-
hel-
go ahead.
I was going to say, if it's helpful at all, maybe I might invite my colleague Jessica to join me at the podium. We've spent a lot of time in that special event task force. There will be a new application available to our community, and with it a packet of information which they've never had before. And I think this will be a real help to those people who want to bring events to our downtown.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, Susan and I spent the good portion of November and December reviewing the special event application that we're currently using and trying to streamline our process and make it more comprehensive. And one of the things we hope to do with the new application is to make it more clear so that when you are having these questions about using a parking lot as an event space, how do you do that? And one of the things that when we start to launch the new application, it'll be clear on how you can use various locations and to think outside of the box. But one of the questions was about having corporate events and for-profit events in our various locations. You think that there's a lot of groups that want to do it, but it doesn't happen as frequently as one would want it to happen. I would say that in my experience here, which is, we were just talking, 15 to 17 years with the city in parks, we have a lot of events that take place in very designated specific locations. It takes a lot of work for me to encourage someone to use a space that's outside of the norm. So I'm excited to think that we have another location within our downtown area available that people can start to use. However, I don't know how quickly it will happen, just because it's hard to have a location in a flat surface without a lot of amenities.
So if I went onto the DDA site now and said, oh, I want to have an event, where can I do it? Does this place pop up?
So what does pop up isn't so much locations as an application on the city's website for special events. So that'd be your first start. It would trigger staff to reach out to you, find out a little bit more about what you're looking for. And in finding that out, they may be able to then recommend locations where that might fit.
And this is on the menu currently for staff?
This is on the city website today. There's an application that you could pull up. And city staff are really, to my understanding, very helpful. And what they're trying to do is make the event successful. So they're going to work with the applicant to make sure they're finding the location that suits them, size, time of year, all of that kind of, all those details.
Okay.
Thank you. So when you speak to amenities, like this could go in your books as it's this much square footage and the power outlets are here and you need to bring in your own bathrooms and that type of thing?
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that I think as we get more down the road we'll be working on. For instance, one of the challenges right now is the fact that it was designed as it was as a surface lot. You can't bring a truck up there. You got to wheel in your tents from the street. Or the electricity is available on the light poles, but the light poles are tall light poles, so you're going to have to get a ladder. So we've got details that we can certainly share on how to get themselves situated on that site, challenges as well as opportunities.
Colin?
We have examples actually in the packet that really kind of speak to what you're saying, Susan, that perhaps you could walk us through, Jessica.
The permits?
It's in the section that has the resolution on the front. Toward the back, there's 3 permits, number 5713, 5714, and 5715, I think. And this just kind of gives you an idea as to how we would, through parks, actually present the space. But again,
Yeah, so
Pass
all,
to Jessica.
so all three of the permits that are included are based on a special event. So these three locations, or these three permits, 2 at the farmer's market and 1 at Liberty Plaza. The farmer's market, 9 times out of 10 is going to require, any event there is going to require a special event application. And it sounds really official, like it's going to be a big headache, but it's not. It's very simple. What it does is it's more of an informative process for us as city staff to know what you're doing and ask a lot of questions, get as much information as we can, and then share it with the public, the various organizations that are neighbors, the associations that Susan mentioned, and then including the AATA bus line, the university. There's a whole array that the distribution list goes out to. And we, myself and my office, we really talk through the applicant and say, you know, what are you doing? What do you want to do? What are the details? So once we have that application back in my office, we create a permit. The permit is based on the area that they're using. So in this first 5713, they're using the Market Shed A, which if you're familiar with the market, it would be the main aisle as one refers to. We charge a $150 fee, which is our park shelter fee, right? So you consider a shelter space. And then the add-ons that are below there, those are standard fees based on the conversation that we would have had with somebody having a special event there. That's a flat rate at the bottom that we come up to for $482. If we move to the next one, which is
So can I interrupt here?
Absolutely,
So
please do.
I think this is all well and good, and
Yeah.
I appreciate understanding how one of these works.
Uh-huh.
I think it's all relevant. At this point, it seems like if you call and you do this,
Mm-hmm.
the property's available. So I don't, I'm inclined to make a motion that we just table this, because there's nothing to be done, but Bob's, all right, go ahead.
I just want to, I think maybe, and, you know, I don't know if Jeff's open to this since it was, you know, his resolution that brought it to us, but it seems like maybe a memo outlining what the process is currently to council as some of our, you know, communications from Howard might be responsive to, so that they could answer constituent, concerns about how would one go about renting if you're for-profit, non-for-profit, maybe a little FAQ kind of list might just do the trick.
Bob?
Yeah, it's fine with me. I mean,
It seems like it's for rent.
yeah, basically, we just want to make sure that it was available and listed and that the right people who had the authority
Right.
to do so would vet the potential renter or user of
And
the
providing a
space.
little daylight to the public about how the process is, that way we could just get it on the council record, and
Bob?
I think that would probably do the trick.
No, go ahead, I'm just waiting for you to finish.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move we table this issue.
Is there a second? Further discussion?
It seems to me that the suggestion that Councilperson Grand brought up to shed a little more information on it might be a prudent set of behaviors before it comes back to us, because it may not come back to us. I think if it can become part of the normal course of action here, and maybe that needs to be, like you say, surfaced more clearly to the public, it'd be wise. So that's why I proposed that motion.
And it sounds like in the new app, that's what's coming out, a new application system.
Sure.
Will that feature properties? Will that have, is there some place
I
where there's a
can't say that
list?
it would. I mean,
Because there's 8 million.
within the parks world, within the Parks and Recreation Department, we don't list every single park and every single amenity and rentable space within a park, right? The webpage isn't designed that way.
There's like a dozen on there or something.
Correct, and we have 159. So what we do is we highlight the ones that have very specific locations, shelters, and then outside of that, the discussion happens, which is why we don't allow renting online, booking your facility online. I want to have the conversation with you. I want to talk about what you want to do, and then I want to offer suggestions for you. Because I think that that's the best way for you to have the best experience in the parks. So, we can mention it. We can have a separate page for it within our world where that is on the website. I'm not sure, but specifically saying on the park rental page, I don't know that that's the best location for it.
I'm just,
But yeah.
I'm not suggesting this gets treated, in fact, I'm suggesting it does get treated just like everything else, right?
Yeah.
The, unless and until there's improvements and anything else made that makes this something other than what it is.
Yeah, and then if we table this here, then, you know, the last resolve clause that speaks to putting it on the city's website by a certain time, I mean, that's just moot because this would be treated like a different surface lot, so that's just my mistake for thinking it might belong under the chapter 39. So,
Further discussion on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Michael? Yes. And that's everybody.
Thank you.
Table. Thanks for coming. That was super helpful.
Oh, thank you.
Good to know. Yeah, no. Done. Oh, talk about fast. Yeah. All right, so this is what, we're going to the reordered agenda. G6 is coming up under G1. Resolution to recommend approval of the contract with DLZ Michigan, Inc. to provide professional design engineering services for the rehabilitation of bridges in the Barton Nature Area, Vandermeer Park, Mitchellfield, and Gallup Park for $50,000 and change. And with us today are Hillary Hansel and Mike Nearing with City Engineering.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thanks. So today I have with us Mike Nearing, who works for our engineering department, and we're currently using DLZ to do a series of bridge inspections. They're under a standing contract with the engineering department, so Parks was able to use them through that existing agreement for kind of our regular cycle of bridge inspections. And so what those bridge inspections brought to light was that there's a series of repairs needed. So I'm just going to go through a quick review of kind of what we found. And so on your screens here, we looked at 6 separate bridges, and the first 3 kind of center around Barton Nature Area and Vandermeer Park. Up here at the north side, this bridge is probably in the best condition. This is the one, if you walk out on it, you can kind of look to the left and see the dam. Yeah, here, you know, there's just some concrete spalling, some selective deck panels that need to replace, so this isn't a very high concern. If we head down to the south end of Barton Nature Area and look at this bridge, this is the one right off here on River Drive where there's that informal parking lot. You know, this one has kind of a fair to poor condition rating. There are some things that we could do to things that need to be replaced, also doing some grading so that where the bridge is coming into contact with the soil and moisture is adding to a quicker deterioration than would be necessary. These are things that we could change quickly and prevent kind of long-term decay and bigger problems down the line. And then over at Vandermeer Park, here we have 2 bridges side by side, a vehicular bridge and pedestrian bridge. These are both in fair condition. There is some rust where removal now would prevent long-term problems down the line. You know, also, let's see here, you know, just removing some and replacing some deck planks, guardrails. And then over at Mitchell Field, along the border-to-border trail where it kind of connects down near the Arboretum. This bridge here, this one is another one. It's in the fair to poor range. There's some stringers that need to be replaced, and it's recommended to replace all of the decking on this bridge. And then lastly, over at Gallup Park, this bridge you probably are all familiar with. It's the one right when you enter the park, wooden vehicular bridge. So this one was found to be fair to poor as well. And it's recommended that we look in the near term, maybe around the 5-year range, at actually replacing the entire structure. So while we look at, you know, the design of a new structure and looking for funding sources, in the interim, there's repairs that need to be done until we're able to replace it, just to keep this bridge functioning and prevent deterioration that would mean we wouldn't be able to use it. So with all that being said, before you is a resolution to recommend awarding a contract to DLZ. And DLZ would provide the design engineering documents that we would need to get these repairs done. So we would take those documents. Part of the work would be able to be done within Parks in-house group. So we could use those documents to make sure that our in-house staff could do repairs accurately and efficiently. And then the other documents would be used to go out to bid for the more technical work that a contractor would need to do. So we're hoping to have DLZ complete this design engineering work this spring. Park staff could start repairs as early as the summer, and then the work that we'd have to bid out might be this fall. But there's a big push to get this work done as quickly as possible. So we're recommending to use DLZ as a best source for a couple reasons. One is the Gallup Park Vehicle Bridge is such a unique structure. It's a very atypical bridge. You can see just by looking at it, it's very different than the other ones we looked at. And this required that DLZ invest significant time and effort understanding the intricacies of this bridge in order to do calculations and verify load ratings. So if we were to use another firm at this time, they would have to redo this work and kind of verify that work. And it wouldn't be as efficient, and it would cost time and money. So we'd like to use DLZ as a best source because they have gone through this process already. They know what repairs are needed. They're ready to start right away, and they're already familiar with these issues. So yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions. Yes.
So from what you're saying, it sounds like the majority of this plan is weighted towards this Gallup Vehicle Bridge. Their costs, right? Because the rest of the stuff sounds kind of road. It's like typical maintenance, replacing like for like. But in this case, they don't know what the like is. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this one's a little more, it's non-typical. They've proposed some repairs that they think would help make this bridge last for the next few years. But I think there's this element of we won't know exactly what they need until we're able to spend more time working on the engineering solution for the repairs. So
The rest of them, where it seems like a like repair, that can get going right away, is what you're saying. The park staff has identified that for the most part.
Well, in that regard also, DLZ would actually come up with specifications and design drawings so that park staff is able to make the correct repairs. So telling them exactly what needs to be done so it's done accurately.
Yeah, there are kind of three levels of repair that are taking place. There's one
Yeah.
that the park operations staff are already working on, and that's basically removing scrub and trees from foundations and things like that. And then, as Hillary explained, the contract will come back with the drawings for repairs, of which there's a handful that the city staff will be able to perform. And then there's another component that will require a contractor.
This is outside of this Gallup Park Vehicle Bridge.
Right.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture what on those bridges would require
Yep.
in coatings work or something. Is something I'm missing?
Yeah,
I
there's,
don't know, maybe Mike might be able to
I'm just
help
curious.
us,
I mean, I don't
yeah.
want to drag it out. I just,
Yeah,
since I've thousands of times on all these bridges, I'm curious.
sure.
Hey, good afternoon. So you ask a great question. I think a good example of what you're asking is the Mitchell Park Bridge, or the bridge over, I guess, the Huron River in Mitchell Field. What's happening there is there are some stringers that run the entire length of the bridge that have completely rusted out and are no longer basically functioning.
Okay.
So in that particular instance, what has to happen is they need to take off all of the deck planking. They need to go in there, cut that existing steel out of there, and then have fabricated new stringers, potentially made out of galvanized steel, that they would then fabricate and reinstall and put back together. A smaller crane is probably needed, and it's kind of beyond the capabilities of our in-house staff, just because, they have other things that they're doing on a daily basis, and this would take up so much of their effort that it's just really not efficient for them to kind of go out
Have
there.
you, and back in the envelope, what you think that the repair
For that
total is
bridge?
going to be for all these? I'm just curious.
we do have a rough idea, but
Yeah.
I mean, again, for
I don't
the,
have the numbers right in front of me, but,
I had no idea, of course, you only see that from the top, right?
yeah,
So-
right, so that's, I'm sure we're
mean-
talking high five figures to
Yeah.
go in there and fix that.
And then we'll see that.
I believe if you add up all of the estimates for the work which would have to be done, contracted out for construction, it's probably $200,000 to $250,000 off the
Yeah.
top of my head, but
Are
that will
this-
come back to you as a construction contract for approval.
It's not part of pros or anything, these,
Yeah, it is. Part of the pros plan is to actually maintain existing infrastructure for safety, of which this is
right,
absolutely essential.
yeah.
Are there further questions?
All right.
Is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, item G2, resolution to recommend approving an amended lease agreement with the public schools for the Eberbach Cultural Arts Building. Josh, welcome. Hey,
Hello, how are
Josh.
you guys doing?
You got 4 in a row now. Or 3 in a row.
Three.
All right, lay it on us.
Extra one. The first one, for 30 years, the city of Ann Arbor Public Schools have worked together to use Eberbach Cultural Arts Building to provide programming since 2009. Prior to 2009, the city took on all of the capital needs and maintenance with it. Since 2009, the schools have taken on those bills, and we have charged a rent of $1 per year because it's an asset that they utilize with their expertise. For the last 5 years, we've really worked on having a regular maintenance schedule to walk through, and the school district has been really good on maintaining their projects there, and then anything over $3,000, we work together with them. There is a balance sheet of currently $52,475 for capital needs. So we're just looking to continue this lease as we have for the last 10, 15 years, but it's up for a 5-year renewal. So any questions?
For staff.
I have a question. Is anyone able to rent that building or use it for anything other than the Ann Arbor Public Schools using it?
It would be rented through them, but yes. Yeah.
Another jurisdictional question.
Yeah.
Do it
Yeah.
even.
Yep.
So the list of repairs that is needed on that building, that you said that the schools are responsible for that, up to 3,000?
If something comes up, as we do a walkthrough each year, if things come about that are major, that are within, that are over 3,000, then we work together with them, and we usually take that on. If it's under 3,000, then they know that they are and take care of it immediately, so.
I swear the gutter and back was hanging when I went by there. And they need to do that sign, too.
Other questions?
The
sign's
sign
rough.
is on our list of
Okay,
things
great.
to do.
So there,
done,
that's all I
actually.
wanted to
So,
know.
yeah.
A neighbor asked me about it.
And you said there were 52,000.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Oh, I had a question.
Oh, you had a
Sorry.
question, I thought
Mike
you were
has a
moving.
question, though, too.
Michael?
You said there were $52,000 of repairs there?
No, that is a balance that that the school district pays to maintain that, so that in case of there's a major capital expense, if it is under 50,000, then their rent payment is still $1, but they balance up to that 50,000. So right now, we are in a good position for any capital expenses that may come about there.
Thank you
What
for
we did
clarifying.
10 years ago was we basically created the lease, which we're looking to renew tonight. And at that time, there wasn't anything that the school paid into for capital repairs. So this has actually worked very well. And it's just kind of in a good position for if there is an unanticipated capital repair, there is a allocated funding source specifically for it.
Specifically for that building also.
Right, yep.
Does this usually come to PAC every 5 years? Is that, yeah,
I've only been here 3, so
sorry.
it's the first
Okay.
time it's
Question
come
for
to me.
Colin,
so.
then, does
Yes.
this usually come back to
Yeah.
us every 5 years? Is that, okay. All right, I'll motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item G3, resolution to recommend approval of a contract with All Seasons Gutters to install new gutters at the farmer market for $29,000 and change. Josh.
Yes, hello again. And speaking about gutters, the gutters at the farmer's market have been in need of repair for a little while. Stephanie can speak about it. Between trucks backing up into them and downspouts not quite connected, vendors and customers are often, on a rainy day, getting wet. We went out for quotes about a year ago. We reached out to a number of places just to get an idea of it. We had 2 companies come and give us quotes. Since it was over $25,000, we went to an ITB that sent out that invitation to bid to 193 companies. We got 1 bid back, which was one of the 2 that we went to originally, and that is for the $29,000 there. We recommend moving forward as much needed at the farmer's market.
I have a source of funds question. What is it?
It is through millage.
Through millage, all right,
Yep.
so this isn't coming from the
It's not coming from
the reserve, whatever they call that now.
No, and if I can just kind of hop in on that for a second. It is important to remember that the farmer's market is a park facility also, so it receives millage funds for the maintenance, as do all of our other buildings.
Other questions, or is there a motion?
I have one question. What's the timeline for repairs and
Our goal is to get it through PAC and then through council and get it started in March, April to be prepared for this season. So I'm sure all seasons would enjoy starting as soon as it gets warm and able to be done. So,
Michael?
Is there any mechanism by which the farmer's market can get any claims from farmers that back into these gutters? As a resident of the site for many years, I have seen this happen. I did not know that it was a $29,000 price tag when it happens.
yeah,
So-
and one of the things with the new, right now, it's very hard for us to repair the older one. As we get this new one, the ability to repair sections will be easier and less expensive than where it's at now. At this point, it has just gone all the way down to a point with that. There has been discussion about identifying if there are fees to be associated for repairs when vendors run into the gutters. So that is something that is on the table at this
We
point.
have actually been able in the past to occasionally collect on that, but it requires a police report and witness and all sorts of other things. But we're not against pursuing that.
Okay, so, and again, it looks like the number that we're looking at is more of a deferred maintenance cost over the past number of years
Yes.
from,
Yeah.
and also a unique gutter system that's on the building right now that has the potential to be
Yep.
more easily repaired in the future.
Yep, that
Okay.
was one of the things in the quote was to ask how to do that moving forward, and All Seasons is very excited about doing that, so.
Great, thank
So it's a
you.
total replacement gutters and downspouts. All Seasons has been great. I've been on jobs with them. They're great.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that
Yeah.
you sent out to 131 people, only 1 person wanted to do business with the city.
And just for comparison, the other quote that we got before we did the ITB was for about $50,000, so.
That was mine.
something?
Is there a motion?
I move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's 5, it's unanimous. Thank you. But don't go anywhere.
I'm not.
G4, resolution to recommend amending a lease with Huron River Holdings, Inc. for use of a parking lot at 416 Longshore, $11,750. Josh?
Since 2012, the Argo Liveries have been renting out the parking lots at 416 Longshore Drive for overflow parking for canoe livery users. It has been Monday through, well, it's been 7 days a week. That has continued to maintain, and it's been helpful to meet the demand of people that are there. Within the last 2 years with the residential parking program, this lot has helped take livery customers off of the streets Monday through Friday when the parking permit is not in place. While we continue to push people through to the Wall Street on the weekends when it is our busiest, this lot is invaluable for having close proximity. It keeps people from going into the neighborhood, and it just provides us with an extra locations to park individuals coming down to there. It was at $9,000 for the previous 4 years of the lease. We talked with the owner of the property to try to get, originally asked for $12,000. We tried to negotiate down to 11. They moved it to $11,750 with a $250 increase each year is what they've requested. It is a needed space to keep customers out of the neighborhoods and in deliveries. So, questions?
Yeah, given the amount of feedback we got from negative experiences with parking in that neighborhood, this seems like a
Yeah, we need,
small price to pay.
we need parking.
Questions for Josh on this issue? Discussion? Motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Awesome, stereo second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That
Abstain.
carries. Michael, you're abstaining?
I am. I lease out of that building, so I don't want any appearance of
Oh, yes, yes.
conflict of interest.
Good, so there's one abstention there for the record. What?
Do we not have enough then?
Wait, if you abstain, we don't have enough votes. Risk of conflict?
I don't feel that strong of a conflict, so I will vote in favor of that.
Okay, he's changed his vote. Welcome to Chicago. Thank you. Thank you, Josh. That was yeoman's work. G5, resolution to recommend approving the purchase of golf course maintenance equipment from Spartan Distributors for, 130 large almost. Colin?
Yeah, so this is the last year of a 3-year plan to replace golf course equipment and move it into the fleet fund. So we're excited that we're at the end of this process. We had 3 pieces of equipment this year. We anticipated about $150,000 total, so we've come in underneath what we had for the budget. And the important thing is, as we pay into the fleet fund, then the next time these vehicles need to be purchased, we don't have to come to you or to council and ask to use monies that aren't there. The one thing to highlight with this one also is one of the pieces of equipment is a hybrid. We are starting in the city to go through all of the vehicle purchases and see if there are more energy efficient, sustainable methods for the cars that we have to replace or the equipment that we need to replace. In this case, there is one, which is the Greensmaster, which is a hybrid. So that was about $4,000 more than the standard, but it meets the goals of the Green Fleets policy. So we'd be happy to do that. That's
Questions for staff?
Not a question, but I do have a comment about
Awesome.
the.
We'll take comments.
You will take comments, okay. Regarding the Green Fleets policy, it was sort of in limbo for a number of years. And the administrator in the new sustainability office has been sort of key in trying to make sure that this happens again and revisit a lot of purchasing options that the city can. They recently got a Volt to be able to drive around. So there's an electric car for 3 volts and chargers. We even got chargers for them as a result of what the Environmental Commission. They didn't buy the chargers with the vehicles, so they needed an extra $6,000 or $8,000 to be able to buy the chargers for them. Long story short, thank you, Colin, for being able to see these things in action in terms of more sustainability options for what we're doing. That's it. Thanks.
Others?
Just a big second on what he's saying. Any place in the system that we can build in these kind of efforts that come from that office is welcome.
So the way that it worked, it was actually the first meeting that we had gone to for a review of the vehicles up for replacement with these, and we basically had to present, these are the vehicles that we need, and are there alternatives, for which in this case there wasn't for 2 of the things. One's a huge mower, like a rough mower, of which there just is not anything other than the traditional gasoline. So we explained that, and then that has to be considered, and of course, the need is still there, so in those cases, those vehicles move ahead. If there is something that has an alternative, which is feasible and economically wise, I'd like to go forward with them whenever we can, so.
Motion?
A motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second?
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. G7, perhaps my favorite of the night, resolution to recommend restricting the purchase of plastic straws and stir sticks at City of Ann Arbor Park facilities. Kyle?
So this comes on the heels of a resolution that the county passed, I think, a month or two ago, which really speaks to the same things. I spoke a little bit to Missy Stoltz, who is the sustainability person for the city, and this is a small first step for something that we can do, which can, I think, help just with both kind of the public perception and education. So what this specifically says is that the Ann Arbor Parks and Rec facilities, we won't actually purchase straws or stir sticks, which are plastic. We will find an alternative to them. We do not do a tremendous amount of business in terms of concessions. It's primarily Leslie Park, Huron Hills, Vets, and the canoe liveries. So while we're not going to be impacting hundreds of thousands of things, I hope that the awareness
To start.
is helpful, and it's a start. And it's also something that I fully anticipate working heavily with the Sustainability Office to find other things that we can do in parks like this, so.
Bob?
I'm going back to Rita's comments about education on this, and I'm just wondering if there is any way to sort of start this off when we do this with some sort of signage,
my question.
something like that, so that people could know what we're doing and why we're doing it, and look for other areas as well.
Yeah, absolutely,
Push
I
the
think.
public ed piece.
Yeah, when it comes out, maybe we can get the press release and all that to go on it. I think it's great that we're leading by example in this case, because we've asked at the Policy Agenda Committee to add this, to push upwards at the state and try and get some of the rights we have, some local rights that are kind of being withheld right now over this. California has had great success with this when the state backed off and let the municipalities do it, and everybody in the industries who I've spoken with out there about it has, they've all turned over, and there was only a slightly higher cost initially, and now it's been great for them. And so we lead by example, and then we hope to legislate later with bigger improvements.
Further discussion?
I have a question.
Please.
I just want to make sure, I think I'm understanding this, but regardless of the environmental impact, there would be some sort of straw available. I'm just thinking of people with mobility issues, you can't
Yep.
hold a cup.
Yeah, so that is a really good question, and the resolution speaks to it kind of in two ways. One is we will have straws, so it'll be an alternative.
Yeah.
Right, so it'll be a paper product or something along those lines. But it also, it restricts the city from purchasing these things. If a person, for whatever reason, has like a medical need and a straw, which is plastic, is better, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
In fact, the resolution exempts,
Yeah.
what's the last
Unless for health, medical, or safety
you go.
purposes.
Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good observation. We had that conversation about the hospital being a big user of plastic straws, but, you know, the bendy straw, which is only available in plastic right now, is essential to some of their patient care over there,
Yeah,
so.
it sounds strange, but some people need the flexibility of plastic to be able to bite it with their teeth to hold it in their mouth, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
One quick question.
Oh,
For
Mike.
further discussion. In terms of what the Sustainability Office is talking about for green purchasing procedures and timing, so as not to, I like the fact that this sends a message. I also, you know, if we have a broader policy that's going to preempt this, how does that fit into the big scheme of things? And maybe somebody from council could speak to that as well, if that's not a question you can answer.
So I spoke to Missy, in regards to this resolution to see if there was any issue with that coming ahead of everything else, and she said absolutely not, that it was good just to have something out there, and then as they work on kind of the details of other things within the city that they could add to it, it would come back to us.
Okay, great, thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries. Item H1, discussion regarding updated PAC laws. Colin?
Yes, thank you. This is the first step in the process of amending the PAC bylaws. There have been some questions in the last year about, are we able to, instead of having a LAC meeting on the first
Right.
Tuesday of the month, can we combine everything into one time? And the short answer is yes, we can. The attorney's office had to review the bylaws as they were doing, so they went through them to update them for consistency with other bylaws across the city. So I provided for you, there's a marked up version, which at first glance you think, whoa, everything is different. If you read through it, you'll see that the areas that PAC is responsible for, all of that remains the same. The majority of the markups are things like moving from is to shall be, or shall be to is, that type of thing. And there's also quite a few new additions within the ethics and conflicts of interest. And it's not that these are being spearheaded to you or to this commission in
Trying to curb our
particular.
behavior.
That's right. It's trying to be consistent across the city, and that's actually something which city council has asked the attorney's office
So
to do.
these are changes in boilerplate that would go into other similar commissions for the most part. I mean, little tweaks
Yep.
here and there.
Yep.
but-
Every commission is going through this process.
Yeah, so right, what I'm saying is that the changes aren't particular to this commission. The changes are about, every commission needs updated ethics standards.
I think we just did planning,
Yep.
didn't we, last week?
Every single one.
Yeah, and planning just came
So-
before us,
so what
'cause
is the-
we
so-
have to approve that one.
So I have, my initial thought is, even though it's a lot of boilerplate, there's a lot of stuff there that I would feel more comfortable at least reading before we.
Which
This isn't on the calendar today, correct?
That is right. All of that is perfect, actually. There's a kind of long, well, there's kind of a number of steps that we have to go through in order to amend the bylaws. So the first thing is that they're here today for you to see, and they're on the agenda. Even if you wanted to take action, you can't. So it'll come back in a month, and then at that time, you could vote to approve the changes.
And then it's gotta go up to council.
Right. Then it goes back to the attorney's office, who presents it to council, and after council approves it, then it's enacted.
So understanding that we've got a month to read and digest these, does anybody have any preliminary or contextual questions that might aid them in that endeavor between now and the next meeting, when I suspect we'll see it on the agenda for consideration or possible adoption?
I would add the only other main change is that the skate park advisory committee it is proposed to have them report to PAC essentially instead of council. But again, this is their roles and responsibilities remain the same, but it allows them to work actually more closely with the Parks Department, which is logical. And it's also what they would like and what staff would like, so I think.
Questions? All right, I think that got done what we need to get done. This thing is stapled together and easily comes out. It's covered by a memo of even date, today's date, so there's homework. Report from the Parks and Rec manager.
I will be very quick today. We are closed tomorrow and Thursday. All of City Hall and all park facilities are going to be closed. We have reached out through social media, email, and we also have an ability to reach out to people that have programs with us or membership passes. We're going to push the information toward them also. In all the time I've been here, that's probably the first time I can think of this happening, but that's the update for tomorrow and Thursday. That's all.
You did a great job with communication. I saw the tweet come through when the ice arena was closed, and then I saw the other ones, so.
I appreciate that, thank you. I'll pass that on to our communications office, they were busy today. Yep, they're busy. Yep.
And this is a result of the state executive order?
Yeah, I think that has a role to play in it, and it's really just the extremely cold temperatures and the wind chill where, you know, it's at a stage that we haven't really seen before.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the university closed a couple hours ago, till Friday morning.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you, Colin. Is there a report from the, no, there isn't a report from the Rec and Advisory Commission.
No, we don't
Ruth
have
isn't here.
Commissioner Crown.
Public commentary. We stand adjourned. Thanks for coming, everybody. Stay warm.
Thanks.